So far, I've sold 590 boxes of Vino cards on Amazon, which is awesome. That equals about $15,000 in revenue, which is amazing.
Yeah, now there's a lot of costs associated with that. So that's the revenue, not profit.
True.
Most people on YouTube talk about how much money they make on Amazon, and they only talk about the revenue. They never talk about the final number of profit. So one of the first costs associated with selling on Amazon is you gotta buy your product. And we bought about 2,000 units of Vino cards, which cost us $10,000. Now, well, obviously we haven't sold all those units yet, but that's a lot of money. There's also things like Amazon FBA selling fees. So you send your product into Amazon and they ship it out for you. And that's about $2,000 worth of, they charge us about $2,000 just in the shipping fees, basically. There's also a fee that they charge for selling your product. So just for using your platform, they charge about 15% of revenue, which has been about $3,000 in fees. And on top of that, there's just other little random fees that Amazon charges, which is another about $1,000.
Yeah, but like overall, it's worth it because I don't see any of those purchases on Amazon. Like as soon as an order comes in, they handle everything.
Yeah, they earn their money. It costs us probably about total $6,000 in Amazon FBA fees, which for not only do they fulfill it, but they also do a lot of the marketing for you. I mean, we just recently started our own website for Vino cards, and it's been almost no sales.
Yeah.
So Amazon does earn that $6,000, but there are still more costs. We spent about $1,000 on Amazon's PPC. So total, we spent about $18,000 on different things, including the cost of the product. So far on Amazon, we've lost about almost $4,000.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of other fees, and that's usually about what people tell you. They kind of explain those fees, but there's even more fees associated with starting a business. For instance, you want to talk about developing the product. There's a cost associated with developing the product. So how did you develop the product?
Yeah, well, specifically for mine, like because it's surrounded around wine, I needed to hire a sommelier to go over that. So that was $150, give or take.
So that was to go over all the different wine facts, because Ariana collected different facts on all the different wines, because basically her product, we haven't talked about this yet, her product is flashcards for wine. It's like a wine course in flashcard form, basically. So there was $150 for the sommelier, but also she's not a designer, so she knows a little bit about wine. She had to hire a designer, and that designer to actually design design the logo and design the product. How much was that?
And to do corrections if I needed it, and any iterations that I felt were necessary for the product. That was about $2,000.
So yeah, developing the product was a little over $2,000. And then obviously we already talked about it was $10,000 to buy the product printed from China. But another cost that people don't often think about is shipping. So there's two different options you have when shipping from China. There's sea shipping and air shipping.
So it really depends on how much time you have. Like if you wanted express shipping, get the product quicker, that's gonna be much higher than if you were to have enough time to have sea shipping.
Yeah.
And sea shipping for us, I think it took about 3 or 4 weeks.
Maybe 4 or 5 weeks at least.
Really? I thought it was pretty quick, actually.
Okay.
But regardless, that could change, like depending where you are, whatever delays they have, if it goes through custom, so it depends.
And we did both. So we sent about 500 units via air shipping, and that cost us around $700. And per unit, it was way higher. Later, we did the rest, the 1,500 units, we did via sea. And the sea shipping cost about $1,400, plus you have to pay $400 for the annual bond. So no matter how much you're shipping, you gotta buy what's called an annual bond, and that's another $400 fee. Now, I split part of the cost of that because my business, Performance Nut Butter, I do ship the boxes that my product goes into from China. So that $400 fee was worth it. But that is another cost associated with starting an Amazon business.
Yeah, and we do have another video about that because it does seem like a lot and kind of scary to have to even begin the process. There were all these things I didn't know about shipping internationally, especially overseas.
But even still, you're not done yet. There's a few other fees associated with starting an Amazon business. One was getting the DBA. So we went with, who did we go with? LegalZoom? LegalZoom for the DBA, that was about $150. Ariana also got a trademark, which was $225. So she trademarked the logo. Now, one tip, the reason why we did this, It's not to stop counterfeiters. The real reason to trademark is to get onto brand registry on Amazon. And I'll do a separate video, I'll link up here and down below, on brand registry and why that's so important. But basically what it does is it makes sure that no one else can modify your Amazon listing, and it also allows you to add what's called enhanced brand content, which in the description allows you to add images and just really some great stuff. The last fee, so there's not too much other. The last fee we have is just what we call the other random fees. And there's about $270 in other random fees. This included things like buying the domain name, just little random things. I'll list some of them out right here. Things that you might not think about that you need to buy, but even gas for driving to FedEx, buying the boxes, buying the tape, just like all the little things, because when you ship your product into Amazon, you gotta pay for the sticker paper, for the labels, just all kinds of total random things. So at this point, it looks like we've lost about $9,000 so far selling on Amazon. But that's not the whole story. So we sold about 590 units, and we still have around 1,300 units in storage. And Ariana's parents allowed us to store the boxes of Vino cards in their garage, which saved us money, so we didn't have to send all 2,000 units into Amazon because they would have charged crazy storage. Yeah, all the storage fees. Those boxes that we still have in inventory have value, and they're probably worth like $5 to $6 a pop. So when you look at it, the total value of those boxes is at least like around $7,000. So really, even though it looks like we lost $9,000, the total loss so far is about $2,000 with Vino cards. But the beautiful thing is not even that is the end of the story. This company is actually profitable, and it's because of a genius thing that Ariana did, and I actually did with my company as well, and that was launching a Kickstarter. So before you ever launch your product on Amazon, if you want to raise some money, you can launch a Kickstarter. And Ariana with Vino cards raised a little over $5,000 on Kickstarter. Now, again, she didn't get to keep all that money. It was about $500 in fees, and we had to pay to ship the boxes to all the different people on Kickstarter. So total profit from Kickstarter was about
$4,000.
About $4,000.
Yeah.
So when you add that $4,000 in, plus the value of the boxes that Ariana has in her parents' garage, the company's technically made $2,000 profit, which congratulations, like that's a big deal. And the other thing to keep in mind is now that she's gone over that initial barrier and covered all her startup costs, every month it's adding more profit.
It's true.
Another thing to keep in mind is the value of those 1,300 units that are in Ariana's parents' garage. To us, it cost us about $7,000. So on paper, it's $7,000. But at $24.99 a piece, once those boxes are sold, this company's total profit's gonna be like 20 grand. So once we run through all 1,300 boxes that are in Ariana's garage, she's gonna have made a profit of 20 grand. So it's really amazing. And all these expenses, I didn't add in, because I calculated all these expenses, I didn't add in things like when we go out to eat. So when we go out to eat now, if we talk about Vino cards, that's a business expense, which is one of the perks of running your own business, whether it's an Amazon business or whatever. I also didn't include our trip to Italy, which is obviously a business expense. And we have a trip in September. We're gonna be going to France. Obviously, we're gonna be doing some wine tasting.
In the south.
Yeah, going to the south of France, doing some wine tasting.
Research.
Yeah, wine research. So that's some of the perks, and I didn't include this because, even though it's a cost of doing business, it's a fun cost of doing business. So at this point, I want to talk about how Ariana started her company. And for anyone that's new to the channel, I taught Ariana basically the same method that I use, and I call this the passion product formula. So I have a business that does about $40,000, $50,000 revenue on Amazon a month. That's about $12,000 to $15,000 profit. It's my passion product, performance nut butter. And I firmly believe, do not private label. Instead, you should create what I call a passion product. Create something unique, something different, something that you really believe in. Now, I have a separate video about my first year selling on Amazon that I'll link up here and down below. So I want to get into Ariana's story and talk step by step how she created Vino cards. And then after that, we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes we made with Vino cards. And we made some really big ones. So pay attention, wait for the biggest mistakes, because these mistakes cost us thousands of dollars. So talk about, how did you come up with the idea? Talk about all the different steps.
Yeah, it really just started with me wanting to create a side hustle, having a side business, extra cash, and with that, I'd have to come up with a cool idea for it, create a product.
Yeah, well initially she was like, oh, I want to start a blog, or she was doing all kinds of research, reading a bunch of different articles on how to create side cash. And I'm like, hey, you know that's what I do like for a living, like why don't you do what I do? And obviously, I think Amazon right now is the biggest opportunity. So the first step was coming up with an idea for a product. So how did we come up with the idea?
Yeah, so it was more of what's something that we would use.
Yeah.
And so we had talked about flashcards and creating a product surrounding that, something simple and fun to use.
So
and
wine flashcards, because we both were learning about wine.
Yeah.
We even went to a friend's house for like a wine tasting, and I brought a video and I showed everybody, hey, here's this video where we can learn about wine.
Yeah.
And it was really boring to watch a video while you're doing a wine tasting. So I'm like, you know, it'd be really helpful if they had flashcards with this information.
Yeah, just like the essential information you need to know. And so you had suggested wine cards.
Yeah, wine cards was gonna be the initial name.
Yeah, and then we played around with the name of what that could be, and Vino cards came about. And it was simply for me searching online, you know, what's a good name? What's like, is there something already that exists like this that I could spark an idea with? But
Well, you came up with the name Vino cards
Vino,
on the
yeah.
spot. Yeah.
And then the domain was available, bought it, good, let's move on. And so the next step was to kind of have a design of what that card would look
So we
like.
came up with like an initial prototype, and I just quickly in Photoshop like wrote out the basic wine facts on the back and the front of a card. We took an existing product, it's still up on our shelf. We took an existing like flashcard set, and I just cut out pieces of paper and taped it onto that. And that was our initial prototype, and we tested it with some friends, and we're like, this is a cool idea.
Yeah.
So the next step was really kind of building an audience. So one of the things, so I've got the whole formula, passion product formula. First step, idea. Second step is building a brand, which we kind of started doing. The third step is getting a tribe together, getting customers that want to buy your product.
Or
Okay?
at least to see if they have interest in it.
Yeah,
you know?
it's the whole point is to test out, do people have
Yeah.
interest? So you created an Instagram. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, simple Instagram page, had it titled as Vino Cards and posted the prototype on there.
And posted like other wine, there's like, it was like a
Yeah.
wine facts, like fun wine page.
So initially it starts attracting people who are interested in wine, and so, you know, have that initial base. But I think the biggest one was on Facebook, because I already had, you know, so many friends and family on Facebook, as a lot of people do at this point. So I created a launch group, and that was something that you had given me the idea for, because you had done that with PNB.
So this is the biggest mistake most people make, is they don't create a launch group.
Yeah.
So the first stage was she created an Instagram and saw, are people interested? On the Instagram page, there was actually a link where people could click on it if they wanted a chance to win a free box of Vino cards. They'd click on the link and enter their email. And this is how she got an email list and how she got new people into the product launch group. Because it's great to get family and friends into a Facebook group, but the real point is to get potential new customers into this group. And part of the reason, I mean, we want to talk about why the product launch group did so well, like how it really helped you create the product, right?
It did, because I really wanted their feedback. Like, what is it that they want on the cards? What would be useful to them that interests them in buying the product? Because I had my own ideas, you had yours, like what we particularly want to know about wine, but what does everyone else want to know as well?
So the product launch group, they help you build the product. You showed them different logos, different Vino cards logos, and they picked the best one. You showed them the initial design, and they told you what's wrong with the design, what they liked about the design.
Even like simply like colors and what's
Yeah.
like attractive to them as far as, you know, gift giving and that kind of thing too.
So the product launch group is to, like, they help you build the product, but at the same time, you're getting them invested. The next step really is to launch it on Kickstarter. And Ariana raised $5,000 on Kickstarter, and a lot of that money came from the product launch group. It wasn't really too much friends and family.
Yeah, it was really the excitement that was built into creating a product that wasn't even, you know, we didn't even have it yet. And so for them to see like, hey, this is actually becoming real. Hey, help me support it on Kickstarter. They were happy to. They were the ones that helped create the product as well.
And so that first $5,000 helped pay for the initial production run. Now, one of the mistakes we made is we did 2,000 units of the product, which cost $10,000, we probably could have just done 1,000 units and easily could have done it for the $5,000 that we raised on Kickstarter. But I gave Ariana a loan. This is technically our business. I gave the business a loan because I believed in this product. So again, the email list, the Instagram, and the Facebook launch group helped us launch the Kickstarter. After the Kickstarter, Ariana actually had to go and produce the product. Because remember, before the Kickstarter, she hadn't made anything yet. And so let's talk about the process of actually producing the product. So the design, what was it like working with a designer?
I think it was really great because I had a vision of it, but because I'm not a designer, like he was able to bring that vision to life. And it was very simple, like back and forth email communication. And he was like the person I worked with was very consistent with replies and all of that. So it was a really seamless process for me.
And it's worth it to hire a designer. I'll show a picture of my initial mock-up of what Vino cards should look like and then what the designer came up with. And it makes it look way more professional. Yeah. It was totally different. And then after that was working with the manufacturer in China. Talk a little bit about that. How was that process? Because I know I was scared. Were you a little bit nervous before ever having worked with a manufacturer? Like when I first was producing my product, I was terrified.
Yeah, it's only because I don't know all of the logistics and I don't know a lot about just working with someone that I've never even met before. Like it was all simply trust over email and like what it is that they said I needed as far as documents and things like that.
But the process itself was relatively easy?
It was relatively easy, and it helped that I had some people I can ask questions to. So we had a couple of friends that we got feedback from. You know, you've gone through a similar process as well, did some research. So it was some work, but it was very easy in the end.
So we're going to start going into the mistakes because these mistakes come up as as we're telling the story. So one of the first big mistakes we made is, we waited a long time. Mm-hmm. I think if we were to do it over again, definitely start the process sooner. Because we wanted to launch before Christmas because this is a good gift product, and there's a big rush during Christmas. And so because we waited so long, we ended up having to do air shipping. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, air shipping is just extremely expensive.
Way
just
more
for,
expensive.
Not that many boxes in general.
And the other problem with air shipping is we didn't double box the product.
Yeah, so there were damages, which then we can't sell those products. So yeah, lost cost for sure.
We lost a lot of money off damaged products for sure.
Yeah, and so that's a downfall. But if you have time, like if you are starting earlier and you go with the sea shipping route, you can give yourself a month lead time to get a product in time and save money.
That'll save you a lot of money. So we did end up launching it on Amazon, and I think again the product launch group was very helpful because all these people that have been supporting Vino Cards and seeing Ariana's story all along the way, when it launched on Amazon, they were the first ones in line to purchase it. They also left reviews right away, and Amazon sees this initial spike in sales, initial spike in reviews, and it's gonna move you to the top of the search results.
Another big mistake was really taking my time with the product because I wanted it to look perfect, which was really unrealistic in the end because there were, in the end, still mistakes that were on the cards.
There's still mistakes on the cards. And one of my big philosophies with Amazon is done is better than perfect. Like you can spend the next year trying to make the perfect product and trying to refine your product over and over again. It's never gonna be perfect. I remember telling you this. I told you that even after we launch it, there's still gonna be some tiny little mistakes. And you told me, no, like I've reviewed this so many times and there still was mistakes.
Yeah, and so, I really do wish that I would have gotten it out earlier because then we wouldn't have to had done the express shipping.
Wouldn't have done the air shipping. Wouldn't have been as many damaged boxes.
Yeah, and just stress, like overall unnecessary stress.
So let's talk about what Ariana's doing to grow sales. Because the truth is, the first month we did about 120 units in sales, and every month since then has been about 60 units. So we're gonna talk about what Ariana's gonna do to grow sales, and then we're both gonna share like our biggest, like our number one tip for new Amazon sellers. So make sure and stick around till the end because we have that number one tip. So let's talk about what have you been doing, what's been, since the last update video we did, like what have you been doing to grow the sales?
Yeah, the most exciting thing is really reaching out to different influencers, wine companies that sell their own wines, just collaborations in general, because that really gets the word out to audiences that I wouldn't have been able to reach on my own. So for example, on Instagram, like a wine company, if they have a pretty solid following and they post for me, and that's simply just reaching out to them over email and saying like, hey, I'd love to collaborate with you. I have this product. I'd like to feature that with your product. And so for them to share that and for me to post that, like it gets just a whole wide audience attracted to my product. So.
And one of the things I want to talk about that I think's really changed is we were doing a weekly meeting for a while between the two of us, and then we kind of stopped. But to Ariana's credit, she's been doing it on her own. And I think one thing I want to share too that I've had a hard time, I've gotten better with in the last few months, but at the beginning, I saw the potential in this product and I really wanted Ariana to be working on this like super hard. And I felt like, oh, you're not spending as much time working on this as you should. And again, to Ariana's credit, she's got a full-time job. I've talked about this in other videos. She also cooks and she does a lot of cleaning around the house as well. Like she's really busy and I give her a lot of credit. So one of the ideas I had was, how about you just work on this business 4 hours a week? So one of your days off, in the morning time, let's work on this company for 4 hours and try to grow the sales. Because before that, I mean, how many hours a week do you think you were working on it?
Not very much. I don't know.
Yeah.
A few.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of the work she was doing was kind of more maintenance work. Like I rarely saw her sit down for a few hours to work on the business. Like she'd do little things here and there, maybe on her lunch break, go on Instagram and contact the influencers. So that's another tip I want to give is spend a few hours dedicated to growing your business.
It's a game changer because then weekly you're seeing like the actual progress in real time. Because if I didn't spend enough hours during the week, I'd feel like there's no movement, no progress. But if I'm actually tracking it myself each week, like it just made all the difference.
So there's one big thing that Ariana's doing to grow the business. And I think this is probably your number one tip, number one advice, and pay attention because I think this is very, very helpful. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I have a full-time job, very time consuming just in general with everything I have to do. But I realized that I do need help just to help me keep afloat during the weeks as well. So hiring a VA truly changed everything because now this VA has designated time throughout the week to reach out to influencers, to send emails, to comment, keep up on Instagram posts, all these like little tasks that was a lot for me to handle while I'm doing other things too. So now I can monitor more of how that's affecting the growth of sales, like how that's contributing to actually getting the word out about the product.
And a lot of the tasks as an Amazon seller that you need to do, like even contacting influencers, you don't need to do that. You can give a virtual assistant a template. You can tell them how to go out and find influencers. This was one of my biggest tips to anybody in entrepreneurship. You can hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines for like $2 to $3 an hour, which is crazy. Ariana makes a lot more money than that at her job. So if she can spend 1 more hour working at her job and she can hire a virtual assistant, even if it takes that virtual assistant 2 hours to do what it takes her 1 hour to do, it's worth the money. So time is valuable. So hiring a virtual assistant, in my opinion, is a no-brainer. It's not very expensive. And I did a video about that. I actually went and visited my virtual assistant in the Philippines and we talk about how to hire a virtual assistant. Do you have any other advice? I'll share my number one tip in a second, but do you have any other advice for any new sellers?
Yeah, surround yourself with people that are maybe in the similar boat as you.
This is huge. This is actually a lot of my recent success is because I've started having friends and mentors that are in the Amazon space, and they, like, I'm worried about something and they have an answer for me like that. They say, oh, I've seen that before. I've done that before.
Yeah, and so you help each other, or you at least get like a little boost in confidence because sometimes you feel like things are not going well and you realize other people are also going through that and you help each other and support each other. It's great.
I give my number one tip, my number one piece of advice to new Amazon sellers in this video right here. So go check out this video. I also share some of the recent struggles I've been having because I've been having a lot of fear surrounding my Amazon business, and I talk about how to overcome that, or at least how I'm trying to overcome that fear, and my number one tip in this video. So we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.